Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Shivali and this is the second video in my series How to Fund Your Master's Degree. So today's video is going to be all about student loans, and this video would be super helpful for all the Indian students who are planning to come for their masters to the US. We'll talk about everything: when to start looking for loans, how to compare loans from different banks, and what are the payment terms, and how do students pay it off, and how long does it take to pay off your loans. How do you manage everything while you're here, your living expenses, your tuition fee, and everything else that you want to do. And in today's video, we have a very special guest joining us, my friend, my classmate, Ritwik. So he's also from Delhi and he took a loan to pursue his master's at Columbia University. Currently, he's working as an ML engineer at Cisco WebEx. So without further ado, let's welcome him and hear everything straight from him. Hi.
Hi,
I'm already recording this.
I heard.
Yeah. Hi, Ritwik.
Hi, Shivali.
Thank you for joining us and welcome to my channel.
I'm so glad to be here.
So I've already introduced you to my audience, but let's hear it from you. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Ritwik. I am Shivali's classmate from Columbia. I was doing my master's in computer science at Columbia. And before that, I graduated from NSIT in Delhi, completing my bachelor's in information technology. And currently I'm working at Cisco as a machine learning engineer in the WebEx intelligence group.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this video is a part of like my series on how to fund your master's degree. And today we'll be talking about loans. And you took a student loan to come to Columbia. So let's talk about that. And let's just dive right into the video and start with our first question. So the first question is, what were the options you were considering for financing your education? Did you know that you're going to take a loan or you had other options in mind?
Right. So it varied from the schools I was looking across. So depending on the tuition and the different fees that are involved in paying off your, going for your education, the amounts you require are probably different. So I was considering paying the money that I had saved myself from with the help of my family, or considering a loan. So given Columbia is a private school and requires a higher tuition and everything, so loan seemed to be the best option, and that's what I went ahead with.
And when did you start looking into loans? Before acceptance, after acceptance? What was that timeline?
Definitely after acceptance. It was in the summer before, joining. So about, I would say May or June. Since the classes start in August, or May or June, because the process takes about a month or two in total. So yeah, started about that time. When I had finalized that I would be joining Columbia, basically then.
Because it seems to be like a tedious process where you have to compare different loans from different banks and then decide. So how did you compare loans from different banks, and how long did it take you to do that?
Right. So it takes some time to compare like different terms and conditions from different places. You can look at the banks that are there in India when you're paying when you want to take student loans from them. What are their rates? What are the different factors that they're offering? The other thing that I got to know from some friends who had taken loans while being in the US. So they were loans from companies outside India. Either they were financial firms outside India, or they were banks in the US. So every one of these options requires like different kind of, repayment methods, different kind of structure, and different kind of interest rates. So yeah, taking all of that into consideration, comparing them took me about a couple of weeks. And then, yeah, I guess putting them together and deciding what's the best option. I would say like in about 2 to 3 weeks, I had like a good idea of what I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so let's talk about what you did and from your personal experiences. So which one did you choose and why? Which bank offered you what, and which bank you finally chose? An Indian bank versus a foreign institute?
Right. So I compared across some of the Indian banks, like the State Bank has a student loan offer, State Bank of India, and then a couple of other private banks in India also have some good student loan options where I guess you can compare the interest rates those from those banks directly, since the repayment terms for all of those banks is paying them back in the Indian rupees. Or in comparison, the other companies I was looking at outside India were Prodigy Finance. So that's a UK-based firm which offers student loans to universities that in their field are in the top 100 universities. So like for computer science, the top 100 universities would be funded by them. So if you're going to one of those programs, they'll be, I guess, more than happy to offer you a student loan at a pretty good interest rate, which is competitive with the Indian banks.
Okay, and what are we talking about in terms of numbers, interest rate?
So they have two things. One would be a fixed interest rate, which is consistent throughout whatever amount you take. So that could be around between 7 to 9%, I guess, for them. And there is a variable APR or variable interest on top of it, which varies depending on the market and different situations. So that can vary from 1 to 3% or something like that. And similarly for the Indian banks, the loans I was looking at varied from 7 to 10% again. So the rates were pretty similar. I guess the one distinguishing factor which I liked about Prodigy Finance, which is what I ultimately ended up going with, was that they allowed me to pay off my loans in US dollars, or the currency I would probably be earning in eventually once I graduated. So the idea of just paying back in the currency you're earning without having to go through the whole tedious process of conversion, like first from Indian rupees to dollars and then back to from dollars to rupees, seemed easier. So yeah, just to get less of a headache, and like since the terms were pretty similar, yeah, Prodigy seemed like a pretty good choice. And I knew quite a few people who had taken it before, so was definitely a safe choice too.
Okay, so for Indian loans, the process is kind of like standard. You go to the bank and inquire about the loans. But since you went with Prodigy, what's the process like? Do they have an office, or it's completely online?
Yeah, so they do have offices in India, but the process is completely online. So you basically don't have to step foot outside, I guess, your laptop. All you need is a good internet connection. But so they have a very, I guess, well established portal where you can get an initial application set up, give them the details of the institute you'll be joining, which program you'll be joining, and give them an initial amount that you're looking for. And once you have that set up, they'll send you a quote with the interest rates, the different interest rates that correspond to your course and what would they be willing to offer for that. And based on that, you can decide whether you want to go ahead with them or not. And then with that initial offer, once you, the whole process for verifying documents and different things that the banks do in person, they do all of that online through secure portals. If you have a credit history, they'll verify that. And then they'll send you the finalized terms for the loans, and then you can just sign it online. So everything from the beginning till the end, like the signatures as well, is all electronic.
And can you negotiate the payment terms and the quote that you got?
My quotes were pretty much, I guess, consistent with every other place that I was looking at. So I didn't do that much, but I'm assuming there will be a possibility, yes.
So Ritwik, can you give us more information about your loan? So for how many semesters, or what was the loan amount? And did you have the option of modifying the loan after finalizing everything?
Right. So yeah, I think for the duration, I took the loan for the first 2 semesters or the first year of grad school. And yeah, I think Prodigy provides you an option to decide how many semesters do you want it for, and how do you want it split across the semesters too. And they are pretty flexible in
What do you
terms
mean
of,
by how do you want it split across the semesters?
by split, I mean the amount is generally split 50-50. So whatever is your loan amount for the first year, that can be split 50% across the 2 semesters, but you have the flexibility to, I guess, get it deposited in terms of your tuition money, or like whatever you want to use it for, in a different split rather than 50-50, depending on how you're taking your courses, what your expenditure is across the different semesters. And in terms of modifying, they are pretty flexible, and they allow you to add another semester worth of money to the loan as well at a later point of time. So you don't need to worry about that at the beginning of the loan. You can do this even once you're close to completing your first year, if you realize that you want an additional semester or two of the loan as well.
Okay. So our course was for 3 semesters, of which you took a loan for the first 2 semesters, and you managed the third semester yourself.
Yes, I did. So there are different opportunities once you get into grad school that I guess I'm assuming Shivali will talk about as well. So TAs and research assistantship or teaching assistantships and different opportunities within grad school that you can use to get money on a more regular basis from school. So in a way, you're like earning and then you're paying off your loans by yourself. Also, the summer internship really helps because that you're earning money during those internships in a capacity where you can pay off as a resident in the US. So that money is pretty useful in paying off for the semester after that. So that's, I guess I used my TA positions and my internship amount to pay off my final semester. So that's why I did not need a loan for the final term.
Okay. And what was the loan amount? And did you just take it for the tuition fee or for the living expenses as well?
Yeah, so my loan amount was about $60,000, and it covered more than the tuition, definitely. So that 60,000 was split across the 2 semesters, so that will be 30K each semester, and that was paying off my tuition and and I was getting some money back in terms of spending it for other things apart from tuition, like living expenses and whatever other miscellaneous costs that come in the way. So the good thing about Prodigy was that they send all of the money that you have dedicated for the semester to your school directly. And so say my tuition amount was only 25K for the first term. So whatever was the remaining amount, it goes to Columbia, but they refund you the money back to your own account. So the hassle of transferring money is not on you, it's on the school again.
Oh, perfect. That's convenient. Did that cover rent and everything as well, or you were getting something from your home as well?
Yeah, so no, Manhattan is a pretty expensive place to live in. So I don't think just the remaining amount was enough to cover all of the living expenses, but it did cover them partially, I guess, like for some time. But I guess, like again, like I said, different positions like the TA positions or maybe some help from home and some money resources from there are definitely useful too. Yeah, I think the remaining amount of the loan can be adjusted in a way where if you just want to rely on the loan completely, you can just take a higher loan and just like not worry about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So were there any hidden costs associated with the loan?
Right. So I think the ones to look out for when you're taking a loan would be what kind of processing fees is applied on top of the amount you take from them. Then you can look at penalties that are there in terms of both repayment penalty. I guess by repayment penalty, I mean early repayment penalty. So if you want to just like finish it off early, would they charge you extra every time you make a payment? Or are there any specific methods or specific currencies you have to pay in, or otherwise would they charge you extra if you paid in a different currency? So that's there. And I think the closing of a loan sometimes requires an additional amount. So for Prodigy, at least, I only had an initial processing fee of about, I think it was around 2 or 2.5K USD.
Okay.
But upon top of that, I had to pay no extra fees throughout the process. And the good thing was that their whole payment system was structured into a simple app or a web app where you can just like link your American bank accounts and just pay off directly through a transfer. So there was no extra cost of processing involved either.
Oh yeah, that's super convenient.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
rent.
Yeah, easier than paying your rent sometimes.
Really? Oh yeah, because they want their money back.
Yeah.
All right. So can you tell us more about the repayment terms of your loan?
Right. So I think they offer a couple of options at the time when they give you the loan offer, which is basically varied in the terms of the number of years you want to take to pay it off. So I think the two options I had was 10 years and 15 years. From the time you finish your education plus 6 months. So your repayment cycle doesn't start till 6 months after your graduation. So there is I guess that's another benefit of going with Prodigy. So you had like 6 months of buffer between, I I guess finishing your school, maybe starting a job, and then having some savings to starting to pay that off. So that buffer period kind of allows you to, I guess, start paying off the loan on time. And yeah, for the interest is compounded over time, and there is no penalty for repaying early either. So yeah, you can choose to either stay for the whole 10 years and pay it off in bit by bit, or just choose to, I guess, repay early if you can.
Okay. And what did you do?
I repaid my loan before even the buffer period started, I guess. So it wasn't a difficult process.
What kind of job are you doing, guys? This is the job that you need to apply for if you're taking a loan then.
Yeah, I think Shivali earns more than me, so that's not a question. No.
No, bro. Anyway, listen. So no. Can you talk more about this? This is like very interesting. How did you pay it off like so early? You
Right.
started the
So
job and spent like your entire earnings on like what did you do?
well, something like that, yes. So I guess I think once you join a job, I guess especially in the Bay Area or in the tech industry in general, like you have different bonuses that you get with your job, right?
Mhm.
So there are two approaches you can take to paying off a loan. Either you pay it off bit by bit, and then yeah, keep gaining like interest on the loan, or paying like take it slow and just like keep making your savings bigger,
Mhm.
or you get rid of the headache and then you just pay off it in bigger chunks. Yeah, I used like my initial, like a major chunk of my initial earnings to direct it towards this. And I guess being in the pandemic did help that, because I wasn't going out at all, so I did not have any unnecessary expenses either for traveling or
Social
something like
expenses.
that. Yeah, exactly. No social expenses, right? So all of the party money kind of went to loan repayment. I know some other friends too who paid it off within the first year itself. So I think it's quite possible, but yeah, you can choose to just take it slow and pay it off over time. So
Okay, so how many months did you pay it in?
I think I paid it in about 6 to 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
And what was the interest that you finally had to pay on the loan?
right. So um, I think my overall interest was about 10% over the principal amount that I had. So yeah, approximately 10 to 12%, something in that range. And apart from that, there was just some processing fees that I had to pay in the beginning of the loan. So if we just add that, so the total amount would get around 12 to 13% in comparison to the money I got.
Okay.
But yeah.
Now, finally, any tips and suggestions for students who are deciding on how to finance their studies, or like, because a lot of students actually base their decision of coming to US based on like, how they'll finance their studies. So what would you say to them?
Right. So I guess there are multiple factors you should look at when you're looking at financing your education here. You should always look for opportunities for funding from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
So once you're joining the program, you should be aware of whether there are any scholarships that are available, how are the TA and the RA positions structured in the school, and how can you finance yourself while being in the school. So that really helps you in deciding whether you want a loan or not in the first place. And if you're taking a loan, you should take into consideration how much are you willing to spend yourself, and how much do you want to rely on the loan again. So my approach was to minimize the amount of the loan I can take by getting like finances from these different resources. But it also depends on like the school you're going to, and the I guess the amount of reliance you want either on other sources, or do you just want to like take a loan and then eventually pay it off.
Mhm.
Um,
And
uh,
I guess like which course are you coming for as well, right? Because if you're in the tech, it's
Definitely, yeah.
easier to pay off the loans.
Right. So if you're in tech or if you're in the finance sector, I think the finance sector has an even higher threshold, because the amount you take, I guess you have to pay for your
First year,
tuition fees is way higher.
yeah, the first year bonus is like your loan amount, so you don't have to worry.
Yeah, I think if you're comfortable with that, then definitely you can just like imagine that you never got a bonus and you're just like joining the company with your first salary. So then I think you're fine. And I guess the same goes for other fields too. I think the tuition for every school is sort of proportional to their industry too, or like it definitely depends on the school you're joining. If you're joining a public school, I think your requirements will be lower. If you're joining a private school, then the money is definitely higher. But yeah, and it depends on the kind of jobs you're looking for, so how much they pay. I guess you can make all of this like cost and benefit sort of an analysis, see what kind of return of investment are you getting by joining that place, and then decide on whether you want to spend that much or not.
So basically, from my understanding, everyone can like pay off their loans, and it should not be this taking a loan should not be a deterrent in like deciding to come for masters or not, right?
Right. So I think one of the biggest deterrents I've seen people have is that they take money as a big concern when joining
Yeah.
schools in the US. I feel like if you're joining a bigger school or a private school, it's definitely going to be expensive. But I guess not just Columbia, but like all big private schools that I've seen in the US, you can definitely vouch for that quality of education. So I think you should target that over the money. And like once you have that education, I'm sure that'll, I guess, eventually result in a job that pays as much. So I don't think in looking back a year or two after you graduate, you won't be looking at the money you took as a loan. You'll be looking at like what you gained out of grad school. So it's worth it, definitely.
अब इसको close करते हो, ठीक है? Um, so don't do that.
I can do this.
Okay, Ritwik. So thank you so much for sharing all this information with us, and thank you for coming to my channel and talking about your experiences. I'm sure like people watching this video will have a lot of clarity now.
Yeah, it was my pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to answer any more questions if any of you have anything. And I think Shivali is pretty much capable of doing that herself. So yeah, keep an eye out on this channel. I'm sure you'll get all your answers about grad school, music, and more. So like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, like a true friend. Guys, if you have any more questions, put them down in the comments and Ritwik will answer them for you. Okay, so then we'll end this video right here. And okay, bye.
Bye.